Thank you. Hi, everyone. So the second name of this presentation is how to make my wife more interesting. Uh, it involved by question on Open Talk how to prevent burnout. So I'll try to show my solution to this. So first, I'm going to tell about me. My name is Michael Bortnik. I prefer this spelling, not like the one in agenda. I'm not only Ruby developer, but Ruby is my main language for several years. I'm co-founder of local Ruby, and not only Ruby school, Katans.org. Some of you know this. Just for interest, please raise hands up who know about Katans. Not bad, thank you. Here is my GitHub link. And next one is my Twitter. It's pretty boring and you don't need to subscribe. So, I prepared this speech more time ago, but on 22nd of May this year, Piotr Solnitsa wrote the programming speech, "My time with Rails is up." Do you remember it? Okay, afterwards there was some replies like fabulous article from Fabio Akita with long sides and pretty different opinion, but my way is closer to Piotr. I finally decided to leave Rails. So, I met the several stages of life without Rails. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and the last one, acceptance. And, well, I tried to do this more interesting for me, more evolving, maybe. And just wanted to try something new in my development life. Extend the borders of my tasks, because it's a bit boring to be a web developer. You always have almost the same scope of tasks. And I just wanted to have more fun. And then I tried to treat this as a game. Now a question. How much of you remember the game named Doom? The first one. Good. So you will see something familiar on the next slide. This was my first level. I tried to use extensions to do Rails more light and to start to live without Rails. First was Rails API. Fully backend, it's light, it's speedy. Second was fabulous Trailblazer by Apatomic Nick Sutterer. Afterwards, I tried alternatives. It was Sinatra or Padrino, I don't remember, but it was Sinatra at all. It was Hanami, former Lotus. I tried a bit of micro frameworks. Cuba, New York, Hobbit, some of them are evolving now, some of them are dead already. And I finished it up using just plain rec. It's speedy, it's suitable. It's quite interesting to build it up from scratch without any magic hidden by frameworks. And I found myself still in web development. Boring. Next stage. Hey, not too raw. I tried myself to switch in tools development. For now, I will show on this part of presentation, I will show the part, not mine tools. I haven't participated in its development. Just the samples, because all tools I worked for was internal, was closed, was private, and I was paid for. So, samples of not web application of Ruby. It's for server monitoring, for example. Good, Bluepil, Sensu. Have everyone used Sensu? No? Me too. Oh, come on. We have a hero here. Next is more common. It's system provisioning, like Vagrant, which is written in Ruby, Puppet, Chef. And Sergey, I know that you used all of them. Deployment automation tools, much more common. Like Capistrano, everyone uses it on daily basis. And Mina, a lot of guys said about it, but I haven't seen any live people who are using it. And finally, end-user tools like Homebrew. Almost all who use Mac uses Homebrew tool. And I finish it with testing automation, like RSpec, Cucumber, Capybara. But it was wrong way. It led me to QA automation. So it was again boring, and I skipped it. The next way, the next skill level was much more interesting. It's already harder, and it was time for experiments. Does anyone know this logo? Yes, that's EmRuby. It was created near 2 years ago, as far as I remember. And that's an implementation of language where Mats participates heavily. They joke that EmRuby means Matsumoto Ruby because they have 4 Matsumotos, and they are not relatives. Well, if you want to make your life more interesting, use EmRuby in production. Well, seriously, you can, because it's already pretty stable and it's greatly fast. To do this, you should take a look at Nginx EmRuby, and it's 60% faster even than plain rec. If you take a look to TechEmpower benchmark, TechEmpower benchmark provides information that comparing to Ruby's, it's the fastest modification. I put a link here, and I will share a link to this presentation to Twitter, so you'll be able to visit all links in this presentation. But it wasn't so interesting. Next level is Ultraviolence. Well, I decided that I want to go out from web development. And I tried to embed EmRuby into other languages. The main difference between Ruby and EmRuby is that EmRuby is embeddable. It has special interfaces to embed virtual machine inside your programming code. It doesn't matter language in which you wrote your code. If it has interface for C, you can use it. I tried to launch it on microcontroller devices, and that's the place where fun begins. Well, because for some time, for maybe 5 or more years, we all have forgotten about counting bytes. Application is slow. Oh, come on, just buy more CPU, buy more memory. Fuck optimization. That's what almost everyone thought. And I tried to come back to the roots. Unfortunately, I discovered that memory matters. Ruby is still too heavy to be launched on microcontroller devices. Just a little side information. I gathered memory usage of Ruby interpreters with Valgrind. Valgrind is a C tool which collects how much memory consumes your program and how much memory it frees. It's suitable for debugging. Big Ruby launched with just puts, something like hello world, takes 9 megabytes to load. EmRuby uses 400 of kilobytes. It's much less, but still too much more than needed. So I found a way, and it was next skill level. Recently, meanwhile, at last week of March, I found a presentation from some researchers in Japan about EmRubyC implementation. It was fully in Japanese, so I haven't got anything, but it has interesting graphs about speed, about usage of memory, about target platforms. And finally, I decided to try. I wrote an email to creators of presentation. It was Shmain IT Open Innovation Center, but in fact, there is only one developer who evolves EmRubyC. And well, I was not sure that I even will receive any reply. But suddenly in 2 days, I received a ding on my email client, and I discovered that they answered me. They said that they will provide me a beta version when it will be ready, because for now it's in very closed alpha, and running forward, I will say that now I understood why they said this. Okay. In fact, EmRubyC is being developed, but by only one person. It's auto-replace again. It's not Kabuki Tanaka, sorry, it's Kazuaki Tanaka. And first alpha version was released at 4th of March this year. And yes, it's pretty in very deep development right now. What does it mean? Deep development, well, we have in EmRubyC only 40% of opcode implemented. Well, let me explain a bit. Big Ruby works in next way. Takes your strings of code, because your code is just textual representation. It parses it to syntax trees, abstract syntax trees. And finally, it converts it to opcodes of virtual machine. That's the way the Ruby works. Big Ruby have 44 opcodes in virtual machine, and it looks like Ruby assembler. You can take a look on this on Big Ruby when you use interface, name it Ruby instruction sequence. So, EmRubyC implements only 40% of those opcodes. And it's in heavy development and needs your help. But it's already operable. You can use it. You can use it for something proof of concept products. And it's the door for Ruby developers to Internet of Things development. And now I want to show you, just to show you some micro Ruby. And no, it will be not this way. But it will look like this way. It's, sorry, just a bit more information. As I said, Big Ruby uses 9 megabytes of memory for just printing hello world. EmRuby uses 400 of kilobytes of memory to just print hello world. And EmRubyC uses less than 16 kilobytes of memory. And this makes able for Ruby code to be launched on microcontrollers. Okay, now I will show you a bit. Do you see it clearly? Okay. Well, the first thing that you will discover when you use EmRuby, EmRubyC, that it have no Ruby code at all. Because using compiler on microcontroller architectures, it's too hard. Too hard to get a compiler working in less than 32 kilobytes of memory. So the first thing that was put under the knife, it was the compiler. But EmRubyC is developed developed on the basement of EmRuby. So it uses EmRuby way to store bytecode. Big Ruby recently received the same way, just very not optimized, because well, it uses unpacked instructions, and each instruction of your code will take 4 bytes or more, and final program in bytecodes representation will consume more disk space than your program in text representation. Well, now I will show how to compile some code. It's just plain Ruby code with very little operation. And it will give you some signal about me. So let's force this to be launched on microcontroller. Wait a moment, I need to show you. Okay, can you see the text? Okay, thank you. So I'll clear it. And now, why it's on EmRuby? The second thing that you will discover when you will try to use EmRubyC, it's not operable without EmRuby itself. because it's very on proof of concept stage. So we should use an EmRuby compiler which compiles Ruby code to bytecode to launch it on microcontrollers. Well, now I will take the result. Maybe I need to show a bit more. So I will do verbose output and explain something. You have seen this. It's familiar to you, Ruby code. And now how it looks like on first stage of compilation. So it's syntax trees. And this is what really executes. It's a bytecode. Okay, now we have it compiled. And here is the same, but in package representation, in binary representation. And the only thing we can do with this, it's to insert it directly in our program and to do a firmware. Okay, let's compile it. I'm a bit scared. But it compiles. And for now, I want to show you a result. I want to say that, well, next maybe 30 seconds or more, I will look like proud for no reason. Because all you know that feeling when it's alive. I will try to show you. Not this. Wait a moment. Okay. Do you see it? Okay. So here is the hardware, the board. Спасибо. Thank you. And now we are going to upload our Ruby code to this. Well, yesterday evening was hard. Sorry for that. And well, I know that there is not much to be proud for. It's just blinking lights. But the thing that I want to say is that we are coming to little devices, and we are ready to start to take place in embedded development. And this new horizons for Ruby. Maybe not very interesting to everyone, but at least for me. So I want to say some kudos, some thanks. And first is for Michael Bortnik for provided hardware, because and second is to Shimane IT Innovation Center and Kenji Sugihara personally for quick responses, because I even hadn't a hope to receive a reply and received it quick. And to Kazuaki Tanaka for EmRubyC itself, and his patents for answering some questions, for merging pull requests. And guys, if anyone wants to participate, please catch me after this speech, and I will tell more about what need to be developed and how worse things are. And thank you everyone for listening this. Sorry, that was short. So, any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Last year, sorry, on the same conference, Julian Chiller presented us R2 framework. Looks like for the same purposes, and I'm not quite sure I understand the difference between EmRuby and EmRubyC and his project. So can you clarify it, please?
Yes, sure. So first thing that I want to say is that size matters. And you have seen the footprints sizes for EmRuby and EmRubyC. It's more than more than 20 times difference. That's first. The main target of EmRubyC is to reduce size, not to speed things up. And it's impossible with EmRuby because it's already a big project which supports almost everything. And as far as I remember, please correct me if I'm wrong, the presentation last year was about communication from Ruby to microcontroller devices, not launching Ruby on microcontroller devices itself.
Yes. So it allows us to embed it actually Ruby program compiled to bytecode to the hardware.
Yes, technically it's Ruby launching on this device, not a special interface which responds to Ruby code, but just a Ruby virtual machine.
Thank you.